Good evening. It's Wednesday, January 30th, 2002. I'm Pat Grace.
And I'm Jackie Nealon. Tonight, our top story, President Bush has pledged to stop terrorists around the globe. In his State of the Union address last night, Bush warned the war against terror has only just begun. Elaine Keano has a recap of last night's State of the Union address.
With an 80% approval rating, President Bush's speech last night was highly favored by a majority of Americans. TV5's own Josh Alderton hit the streets to find out how the speech went over here in Clarion. Josh?
Years since a simple platform of budget cuts and party politics has given way to foreign relations and a newfound war on terrorism. Last night, President Bush delivered his much-anticipated State of the Union address to an eagerly awaiting country.
Obviously needs to be done to have the terrorists eradicated, but $48 billion is quite a deal.
The interim president there last night, and he also had a woman, and that's what's needed in Afghanistan.
War in Afghanistan. As with any wartime, we are plunged into a sea of differing opinions.
What President Bush is doing, I agree with. He needs to go find the person who did it.
From the Clarion Library, Josh Alderton, TV5 News.
Good jobs depend on expanded trade.
Discussion and reaction from last night's meeting hit Main Street and Clarion, but also the entire nation. Mark Despotakis sat down with two Clarion University professors, Dr. Barry Sweet and Kevin Yenneral, to discuss what they thought about the President's address on tonight's edition of Inside Politics. Mark?
Thanks and welcome to what may be a first in a series of segments here at TV5 News, TV5 News Inside Politics. Tonight we're taking a look at last night's State of the Union address. Joining me here this evening are two Clarion University professors, Dr. Kevin Yenneral and Dr. Barry Sweet. Thank you both for joining us. Let me first start off by asking you, Dr. Yenneral, how did the President do? What's your reaction? How did President Bush do last night in these changing times?
Well, Mark, thanks for having us here, first of all. I think President Bush rhetorically did a good job, did a sound job. State of the Unions are about presidents outlining their agenda, telling the country where they want to go. And if you use that as the yard mark or that as the measurement, I think he did an excellent job. As far as the actual content of it and the specific policies and tax cuts and military readiness and so forth, I think that's a different question. But in terms of delivery, I think it's hard to argue with him. Any president in wartime generally is received pretty well. You noticed all the standing ovations. You really had two speeches last night, two different speeches. I think we'll get to that later. But clearly I thought his best delivery was in terms of the military readiness and homeland security. I found the economic policy portion of it wanting and a bit vague, but that is not surprising. He wanted to spend his time on military readiness and homeland security. He did that. He accomplished what he wanted to do, what the speechwriters wanted to do. And on that basis, I think it's hard to argue that it wasn't a success.
All right, and Dr. Sweet, how do you think he did?
Well, I basically agree with Dr. Yenneral. I think the President did a pretty good job, especially on the homeland security, national defense type issues. And perhaps he was a little vague on some of the economic policies, but those are going to be the ones that are harder to sell, especially to the Democrats in the House and the Senate. So he's going to have to be a little, perhaps, more vague on those. But overall, I think he did a pretty good job. As Dr. Yenneral said, in a time of war like this, the country's behind him. He had over 70 standing ovations out of 48-minute speech. So I think overall it went pretty well. I think the population, the country at large, received it pretty well. He's over 80% approval. So I don't think we could expect much more.
Well, one thing that you hinted upon, Dr. Yenneral, and something that a lot of people noted, and it was noted almost immediately after the speech last night, it almost was like there were two speeches. We almost heard this speech about terrorism and then the speech that's the normal State of the Union address. Dr. Sweet, speak to that. Two speeches, was that a good idea?
But they perhaps could have been blended together a little more nicely. But you have to remember, this is an unusual situation where the country is technically at war, much like 1991 when his father was president, or going back to Harry Truman, or back to Franklin Roosevelt. And so you can't have a State of the Union address and not talk about the war. So I think he had to give a certain amount of attention to that. At the same time, generally a president, his plan for the future, as Dr. General indicated, at a State of the Union address, and usually that involves things like social and economic policies. And so he really did have to sort of cobble these two things together. And I think at times it perhaps didn't come off that well. I think it was a little bit forced. And I think at times it seemed as if he was being a little bit redundant with the terrorism aspect toward the end of the speech. But overall, I think it was effective. Again, I'm not sure he's going to be able to sell some of those policies to the Democratic Congress, but I think you're right. It was basically sort of a two-part speech.
Yes, I would in many ways agree with Dr. Sweet on this. It didn't always flow together properly, and of course that is difficult, trying to put together really two different policy speeches, and the economic portion of it coming on, I think, almost as an afterthought. But there's a reason for that, and that is because the Democrats and Republicans have very different views for how to stimulate the economy, what to do with Social Security, what to do about drilling in Alaska in terms of energy policy, whether or not you should follow supply-side economics and cut taxes on the wealthiest to spur growth, or whether you spread it around a little bit more. And the parties disagree. If you stayed around and listened to Richard Gephardt, the minority leader for the Democrats from Missouri, you found that out. And there will be a great fight in Congress over economic policy. It's bipartisan, mostly on the military. There'll be some finagling, I think, with the numbers. The president called for a 14% increase in defense spending, 14% increase, which is $48 billion. That's the largest increase since Ronald Reagan was president in the '81 budget. I think we'll get most of that because of the time. But on the economic angle of this, you're going to see a real rhubarb of a debate, and bipartisanship will probably end there.
Thank you, Dr. Sweet and Dr. General, for joining us. We certainly may see you in this segment in the weeks to come. Pat and Jackie, back to you.
As we said before, President Bush has pledged to stalk terrorists around the globe. In his last night's State of the Union address, he warned that terrorism has only just begun. We now have Elaine Keano's recap of last night's State of the Union address. Sorry about the technical difficulties.
It was a speech designed to rally the country and members of Congress behind President Bush's goals of boosting the economy, improving homeland security, and fighting terrorism.
The President of the United States.
Against a backdrop of incredibly high approval ratings, President Bush, in his first ever State of the Union address, called on members of Congress to work together, both in fighting the war on terror here in the U.S. and abroad, and in jump-starting the lagging economy.
We have clear priorities, and we must act at home with the same purpose and resolve we have shown overseas. We'll prevail in the war, and we will defeat this recession.
The president also repeated his warning to countries that harbor terrorists, a message he first delivered shortly after the September 11th attacks.
Some governments will be timid in the face of terror. And make no mistake about it, if they do not act.
A reaction from Democrats and Republicans echoed the president's message of bipartisanship in finding ways to grow the economy. But the two sides differed in exactly how to do that.
We need to get this country going again, and he talked in detail about a stimulus package that I think is very, very important.
Let's have tax cuts. Let's make sure that we do the kinds of things that stimulate the economy, but let's do it in a balanced and fiscally responsible manner.
Today, the president begins a two-day tour of the South, making stops in North Carolina, Florida, and Georgia before returning to the White House. In Washington, I'm Elaine Quijano. Now back to you.
Another main topic of President Bush's address last night was education. With Clarion University being a major education school, TV5's very own Amy Ujadowski went on campus to talk to the Clarion education majors to gauge their reaction. Amy?
We need to prepare our children to read and succeed in school with improved Head Start and early childhood development programs. We must upgrade our teacher colleges and teacher training and launch a major recruiting drive with a great goal for America: a quality teacher in every classroom.
Last night, President George W. Bush focused most of his speech on terrorism and security in the United States in his State of the Union address. However, Education did receive applause by many, as the president stated improvement of skills and abilities of teachers. He said the future teachers need to be higher educated so that every classroom contains a more quality teacher. Being primarily a teaching school, Clarion University may be affected by this reform.
I think Head Start is really one of the programs that has proven itself to work. And to expand that, I think, would be a good idea.
The president also talked about Republicans and Democrats working together for the educational reform. He tied this in with decreasing unemployment, but said that good jobs start with good schools.
The students we have leaving here do an excellent job. And the feedback that we get from the various school districts in this area and around the state, and in some cases outside the state, the feedback we get is very good.
Well, I think that but I think that there's always room for improvement. It just depends on how you want to implement those improvements.
I think that educational reform is a good idea. I don't think I like what President Bush has in mind, but it's an issue that needs to be kept at the front of our minds.
As you can see, the opinions about President Bush's statements of educational reform are very different among individual people. However, there is one opinion that everybody tends to agree on. There's always room for improvement. In the newsroom, Amy Uchadowski, TV5 News. Thanks, Amy. Up next, Governor Mark Schweiger says he will not be raising taxes. Also, local Congressman John Peterson shares his views on some of the president's ideas.
But first, it's your turn to let us know what you think. Call or email us with your ideas. This portion of the programming was brought to you by the Clarion Bowl Arena, located on Route 322, 1 mile east of Clarion. Bowl Arena offers rock and bowl every Friday and Saturday night, and a game room with 8 pool tables and arcade games. Bowl Arena also offers bumper bowling for kids' birthdays and league play for adults. Call 764-3471. Again, that's 764-3471.
On September 11th, America faced terrorist attacks of the worst kind. Innocent lives were lost, and a sad cloud was cast over this great nation. These acts were intended to cause fear among all Americans, including our children. But we cannot let that happen. There are things we can do to help our kids. Talk with them, listen to them, tell them they're safe and that they're loved. God bless you, and God bless America.
Do you want complete coverage of local, state, national, and international news as it happens?
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to TV5 News Live.
Then tune in to Clarion's very own TV5 News Live for complete coverage of the Clarion area and our world. TV5 News crews join with crews from the world's news leader, CNN, to provide complete coverage of the day's events. With advanced satellite capabilities, TV5 News can bring you the latest news as it happens. So tune in every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday evenings for Clarion's very own TV5 News Live. This camera mark. You're watching Clarion's very own TV5 News Live. Will this be the first recession since World War II in which Pennsylvania's taxes will not be raised? Well, according to Mark Schweiger, the answer is yes. He says he is planning on asking the General Assembly to approve using money from the state's rainy day fund to make up for the close $550 million in expected shortfall. Even though the state is looking for other ways to get the money, Schweiger assures Pennsylvanians taxes will not be raised.
United States Congressman John E. Peterson supports President Bush's plan to strengthen Homeland Security. This plan will increase funding for Homeland Security to $38 billion. The funding will go towards improving such things as transportation, security, and securing U.S. borders. $3.5 billion of the funding will also go to police officers, firefighters, and all those involved in fighting domestic violence. The funds will be used in areas that they are most needed.
State lawmakers are trying to lessen the cost of medical malpractice insurance. With the majority vote, they hope that the state insurance funds that cover doctors when their own malpractice insurance runs out will gradually diminish, but at the same time also increase the level of private coverage doctors would need.
Vice President Dick Cheney is being sued by the General Accounting Office because they're trying to get information on business executives who met with Cheney and his aides to discuss energy policy. However, Republicans say they might take action to stop the congressional investigations from happening. Republican Arlen Specter is researching to see if the GAO would be pushing their authority by taking on administration. Monday night, Kevin Powell came to Clarion University to talk about Martin Luther King's message and how it's still affecting us today. TV5's own Carrie LaPue tells us what Powell's message was. Carrie?
Kevin Powell started off the Martin Luther King series on Monday at Hart Chapel on the Clarion University campus. Powell's topic was Looking for Martin. Are Dr. King and his dreams still relevant?
Some of the stuff he did after 1963, because I feel a lot of people are not aware of that kind of stuff. And then, two, I've been so affected by September 11. I can't even tell you, from, again, 2 people I know dying there in the World Trade Center and the Twin Towers, to people I know that are over in Afghanistan now who are in the military. And so I wanted to begin to raise some critical questions.
Powell spoke about Martin Luther King's I Have a Dream speech and the civil rights movement. Even though the civil rights movement has increased rights for many, Powell still feels that problems still exist and can be improved.
More opening up of different types of people and not just putting people in boxes like we still do in this country.
Powell has been called one of America's most brilliant young cultural critics due to his work as a journalist. Powell has lectured at many colleges and universities across America. He has lectured about Dr. King, as well as Black and American history, American popular culture, and the history of hip-hop.
Ask the question that Dr. King asked for the end of his life. Where do we go from here? Thank you.
Continuing on with Dr. King's question, where do we go from here, Kevin Powell suggests that we be more open to society and other people, as well as continuing to make a difference within the world. The next speaker within the Martin Luther King series is Herman Boone, whose story was captured by the Disney filmmakers in the story Remember the Titans. He'll be at Hart Chapel at 4 p.m. and all are welcome to attend. Here in the newsroom, I'm Carrie LaPue, TV5 News.
Well, the roads might be icy, but that's not the only thing that Clarion drivers have to worry about. Will Clarion drivers be seeing video cameras and message boards along the highways? For now, no. But the State Transportation Department has plans to do so in Lehigh Valley. In doing so, police officers are hoping it will help spot accidents and traffic jams. PennDOT plans to install these cameras along Route 33, Interstate 78, and Route 22. So watch out, Clarion, we could be next.
In other highway news, around 3 o'clock this morning, a woman was thrown from her car, landed on a railroad track, and was hit by a train. The accident occurred on Route 55 in Aliquippa. Police will not identify the woman, and the coroner said she probably died before she was hit by the train. Up next, Jeannie Moose will join us with an interesting look at the tabloids. Also, Stephanie Dugan will join us with today's weather.
But first, here's a look at tonight's stock reports.
In the game of life, you've got a much better chance at getting picked for a cool job with great pay if you take algebra, geometry, and calculus. You need to know how math can improve your future. Demand it. Call NACME. We'll tell you.
Wardrobe for some TV5 News stock provided by Fashion Bug, located in the Clarion Mall. Whether you're looking for junior trendy or fashion for women, they have it all with many different styles. Fashion Bug also offers a wide selection of accessories. Fashion Bug is located in the Clarion Mall, just off of exit 62 of Interstate 80. Open Monday through Saturday, 10 a.m. till 9 p.m. and Sunday from noon till 5.
This portion of programming is sponsored by Reese Brothers, located in Drake Square Building in Oil City. Reese Brothers offers a competitive hourly wage, plus daily bonuses, flexible scheduling, company-sponsored health benefits, and paid professional training. Call today at 1-800-365-3500, extension 684, or 677-9236 for your personal interview, or stop by and visit the Drake Square Building. Reese Brothers, where integrity and technology connect.
Hi everybody, I'm Brandy. How would you like to give hope to millions of the world's children? UNICEF, the United Nations Children's Fund, is saving lives in over 140 countries by providing kids with medicine, clean water, nutrition, and education. With your help, UNICEF can make a huge difference in our world. For more information, call 1-800-FOR-KIDS. Thank you.
You're watching Clarion's very own TV5 News Live.
Warm weather.
However, today was cold and rainy. Hopefully, tomorrow will be better. Stephanie?
Well, while the rain fell steadily, the temperatures continued to drop. Temperatures barely reached out of the 40s today here in Clarion, and we only saw one break in the rain, which was this afternoon. In the lower portion of your screen, you'll see the satellite map. Pennsylvania is in the midst of the region in total cloud cover. These clouds moved in yesterday and will continue to bring rain until the weekend. The sun is not expected to shine until at least early next week. In central Pennsylvania, when we see the front map, the green area will show where it represents rain. Right behind this system, in the pink area, is the ice and freezing rain that will move into our region throughout the night. Temperatures will drop significantly tonight, and as you wake up tomorrow, it will be cool and rainy. Tomorrow brings more rain to us along with snow mixed in. The rain will change into snow showers throughout the night. Temperatures will stay in the mid-30s to the 40 range for the next few days and drop into the teens throughout the night. So for the next 5 days, you will see rain Thursday and Friday with temperatures 50 and the lows of 41 and 21. Saturday, snow flurries with a high of 32 and a low of 18. Sunday, 38, high of 21. And Monday, more snow flurries with a high of 33 and a low of 17. And one more note to pass along. Tonight there is a winter storm warning in effect for the Clarion and Venango counties. Rain this evening will change to freezing rain throughout the evening. Ice accumulations of 1/4 of an inch or more are expected tonight. By sunrise Thursday, freezing rain will change to rain and temperatures will rise above 32 degrees. So if you're planning on traveling tonight, be careful and safe because the roads will be slippy.
Thanks, Stephanie. There's something irresistible about those photos you see in supermarket tabloids. The ones you check out covertly while waiting in the checkout line. Well, now, Jeannie Mose reports they're available in a book, bigger and glossier than ever.
Inquiring minds want to know, oh my God, what's making these folks go? Oh! If you've ever been tempted to peek at the National Enquirer but felt it was too trashy, here's your chance. A coffee table book full of 30 years of unforgettable images. Who could forget Julia Roberts, unshaven?
Oh my God, what is that?
Or Jackie Kennedy smoking a cigarette. Or Brooke Shields breaking a nail and breaking into a grimace. From JFK Jr. in love to Geraldo in bandages after a fight with skinheads.
It's a record of their lives, the good and the bad and the ugly.
Ugly, like the woman with the Guinness record for piercings, 290 holes.
That's disgusting.
Some might think this is disgusting.
Elvis in his casket.
Yeah. The Enquirer paid one of Elvis's cousins to take this picture.
Our editors were so tickled pink over the photo that he received a bonus and ended up with $18,000 for the picture.
That of the Enquirer more than any other. Some photos have inspired envy among the mainstream media. From the snapshot that ended Gary Hart's presidential campaign to the one that tied O.J. Simpson to a brand of shoe that left bloody footprints.
O.J. said that this photo of him in the Bruno Magli shoes never existed, and we went through thousands of negatives and finally found an image of him in the shoes.
Jack Nicholson tried to be the butt of jokes.
That was Jack wearing those swim trunks on purpose just to have a bit of fun with the paparazzi.
But not all celebs appreciate having their picture taken. That's Frank Sinatra in his PJs. Guards at Don Johnson's wedding fired buckshot at the helicopter Barry Levine was in.
And it was like being in a pinball machine. The buckshot ended up coming into our open cockpit.
Cher had to bail out a boyfriend who got into a fight with photographers. What's the thing Cher has ever said to you?
She's, how can you live with yourself, Barry?
The Enquirer's nose for news extends to Paula Jones's nose job and Michael Jackson's. Jackson's manager actually sent the tabloid this photo of Michael sleeping in a hyperbaric chamber, apparently for health reasons.
And he basically gave us this picture with the caveat that we had to refer to him in this photo as bizarre.
The Enquirer loves embarrassing moments. Mel Gibson with lettuce in his teeth. Donald Trump caught on the slopes with then-girlfriend Marla Maples and wife Ivana. Those who remember Charlie Chaplin like this might not want to think of him like this. Liz with wrinkles, Liza looking beat. Is it okay to show people looking so bad?
I think it is. I think it is. And I think that our readers at the National Enquirer expect us to have photos like this.
The New York Times called brain candy. I think they meant it as sort of junk food.
Well, we think that this is, meat and potatoes, that there's a lot of steak in here.
Some of the steak is a little too raw for us to show. Whoa! Jeannie Mo, CNN, New York.
Up next, Pat Muldowney will be here with tonight's sports.
Stay with us. TV5 will be right back.
Programming was made possible through a grant by Fox's Pizza Den. Fox's Pizza Den is located on Old Route 66 in Clarion and offers all-day delivery. Phone 226-5555. That's 226-5555. Fox's Pizza Den is open 7 days a week for your convenience. Phone 226-5555.
Complete coverage of local, state, national, and international news as it happens.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to TV5 News Live.
So tune in to Clarion's very own TV5 News Live for complete coverage of the Clarion area and our world. TV5 News crews join with crews from the world's news leader, CNN, to provide complete coverage of the day's events. With advanced satellite capabilities, TV5 News can bring you the latest news as it happens. So tune in every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday evenings for Clarion's very own TV5 News Live.
Too late.
Terrorist attacks of the worst kind. Innocent lives were lost, and a sad cloud was cast over this great nation. These acts were intended to cause fear among all Americans, including our children. But we cannot let that happen. There are things we can do to help our kids. Talk with them. Listen to them. Tell them they're safe and that they're loved. God bless you, and God bless America.
So, Pat, I hear there's some big baseball news in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, the Pirates are making news today, Pat. What can you tell us about them?
Well, earlier today, the Pittsburgh Pirates agreed to terms with Gold Glove second baseman Pokey Reese in hopes to shore up one of the least dependable infields in the major leagues last year. Reese has been on the move in recent weeks, being traded from the Cincinnati Reds on December 18th, only to be shipped to from the Cincinnati Reds, only to be shipped to the Boston Red Sox 2 days later. With the Red Sox opting not to pick up his contract, Reese automatically became an unrestricted free agent. Since debuting with the Reds in '97, he's batted .250 with 36 home runs, 180 RBIs, and 120 stolen bases. Reese brings phenomenal speed to the Bucs lineup as well as much-needed defensive reassurance. And lastly, with the newly formed Houston Texans entering the NFL next year, each team is forced to leave 5 of their players on an unprotected list, which the Texans may choose from in the upcoming expansion draft. In his final press conference of the year, Steelers coach Bill Cowher announced that 5 Steelers will be left unprotected. Fullback John Whitman, long snapper Mike Schneck, guard Roger Duffy, and wide receivers Troy Edwards and Will Blackwell all could be donning new uniforms next year. That's all for the Wednesday night sports report. Now back to Pat and Jackie.
Well, that's all for the news tonight. Join Carrie LaPue and Susan Honor tomorrow night.
For everyone here at TV5, I'm Jackie Nealon.
Have a good night.